Market Success. Today I'm going to go over the umbrella or excess section of the Acord forms. This is an Acord 131. It's for an umbrella or excess insurance. You would start by filling out the date on the top right. Then you'll fill out your agency name and the insured's name. You do not need to fill out the policy number, carrier, or effective date when quoting. Next, if you're quoting you would put new. Renewal would be for if you're doing the Acord form to process a renewal for binding, but when quoting, you always click new. You would click umbrella or excess, and then the type of policy it is, whether that's occurrence or claims made. If it is claims made, you're going to want to put the retroactive date, either proposed if it's not, if it's a new policy, or current if it's an existing policy. And then you're going to put the liability limits, each occurrence in aggregate, and then the retention limit. You'll also want to list whether or not you want first dollar defense. And that basically just means that the deductible is, the defense is included in the deductible or not included in the deductible. You'll want to list employee benefits liability if they have it here. You'll want the limits, the aggregate, retention, retroactive date if it applies. Next, you'll want to list the location. So again, you'll want to list the insured's name. If they have any subsidiaries, you'd want to list them as well. But you'd want number one, and then you'd list the name of the insured with their street address and the description of their operations, payroll, gross sales, foreign sales, and number of employees. Excuse me. Next, you'll want to fill out underlying insurance. So for this example, I only have a general liability policy for my liability exposures. But otherwise, you would want your auto policy and the effective dates along with the limits. Same for general liability, employees liability. If you have professional liability or whatever liability policies you have that you want the umbrella going over, or if it's excess, obviously you would only want to put the one policy that it is excess over. You'll want to next go to underlying insurance. So these are where you're going to answer questions about the underlying policies. So this one was for general liability. All these questions are related to general liability. So you'll want to put whether or not the defense costs are within the aggregate limits, separate or unlimited. And then you'll want to also indicate the date of the ISO form. You don't necessarily have to do all of this. If you're doing a new quote and you don't have that information. So let's say you're sending a quote in for a general liability and an excess, or even an umbrella as well, and you don't have the policy yet, you would not need to answer any of these questions. If there is an existing policy and you're trying to requote it, you may want to answer these. Most likely you will not need to do this unless you're processing a renewal. And then you'd want to answer these questions. This one is if there is any product or work or accident or location or anything that's excluded or uninsured or self-insured, you would want to list a number 3. And then this is all claims made information, such as retroactive date of the current policy, any uninterrupted claims made coverage, and then whether or not tail coverage was purchased and the effective date if that was. Next, this would be for the other coverages that are appropriate. So you would want to check, occurrence or claims made, depending on what type of policies you have. If you have an auto, aircraft liability, whatever coverage you have. If there is coverage and there is an exposure, meaning, let's say I've got employee benefit liability, but the liability limits do not meet the threshold, there would be an exposure that exists. You would need to list that the limits are basically less than those shown by clicking this box. This box indicates the underlying information, including any restrictions or endorsements, waivers of subrogation, that sort of thing. You would want to put that in this box. And then this is talking about any type of losses that they may have had. You can click here if they haven't had any losses. Care, custody, and control, you only need to answer this if they have that coverage. Vehicles, you only need to answer that if they have that coverage that they want listed. In my example, I don't have it. So if you did, you'd want to have the number of autos owned. The numbers are non-owned autos, meaning the employees' autos that are insured, or any that are leased. And if they are hauling property, you'd want to talk about that, and then how far the radius is that they go with those vehicles. Advertising liability, if they have coverage for that, you would want to talk about media used, if they're doing any of that, services of an advertised agency used. You'd answer all these questions. Aircraft liability, you would want to answer any questions there. Auto liability, these questions here, and then contractors liability here, and then employer's liability, incidental malpractice liability if you have doctors or attorneys, and then any additional exposures such as pollution, product liability, protective liability, watercraft liability. In most cases, most of these will not apply. It's usually a very, very quick form to fill out. Again, at the very end of this application, you would want to sign, put your name, the producer number, and the your national producer number. If you have, you can answer these questions too, depending on the states that you're in. You can see this one's applicable only in Louisiana, New Hampshire, Vermont. So these questions need to be answered and initialed if you are in those states. If you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them. You can reach me at www.elevatedsuccessonline.com, or you can reach me on email at info@elevatedsuccessonline.com. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out.